What is that, what do you mean by replacement reconstruction of water lines?
So currently, the system that was put in to, it was the lowest bid to a 4 standard. So it's the lowest of the low. The pipe is the thinnest pipe you'll ever see in your life probably. And
So
there's
you're talking
constant
about
breaks.
laterals off of mains,
So
you're
this
talking
is
service lines
basically,
off of mains and all the irrigation to the planter beds.
basically what needs to happen at this point is new mains need to be run with new laterals to the planter beds.
How much main?
3 blocks worth, so 1,000 feet. 1,500
With
feet.
C900 or what? What would it be? What would it end up being?
Just depends on how we
What
configure
size?
it. It could be as simple as running PEX, or if it's going to go into the street, then probably Schedule 80. But it's all small pipe, so.
Right.
Why wouldn't the county be replacing their own system? Why would it be on us to replace their system? I mean, it's one thing to provide the water, it's an entirely different thing to replace infrastructure in their property. Something that they designed, something they installed, something that at this particular time and day, you don't want watering plants, you want,
Yeah.
you should tear it all out, put rock and succulents in there and call it good.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth with the county to try to get them to fix their mistake, and they've pretty much refused to do it. They've
Yeah, I
fixed
understand.
some stuff here and there, but that's, nearly impossible to get them.
And then the plantings that are out there, you have scattered little plants here and there down the street. And then where the bubbles are, where the stop sign is, they plant stuff 3 feet high, so you can't even see traffic coming down the street.
I'm not saying that the initial planting plan was a good plan.
I don't see
They've
anything
been
good
taking care of
about
it.
any of it.
The chamber basically has been taking care of it. At this point, they've probably put in hundreds of plants.
Right, and how much have we spent on water?
Well, last year we spent about $5,000 on water.
On water.
Well, what we would have,
And I
what we
watched
would
it
have
run,
charged.
I watched it run down the street.
Well, there's no doubt that the irrigation needs to be fixed. The county is willing to entertain giving more money to help fix it, but they don't seem willing to entertain fixing it themselves. So,
So if the county's is gonna work with us, I mean, the cost that we're looking at for doing this will be lower, in essence. I mean, the
No.
46,000 would be lower.
it's possible that they could cover the entire cost. There is a grant that the chamber got for $20,000 towards that end. The possibility of the water conservation group paying the rest of it, I wouldn't say it's a sure thing, but I would say that it's a good possibility. Basically, the amount of money that we would need would have to be approved by the board of supervisors, but there again, like I said, if we can show the reduction in water loss and the reduction in watering, then they should be able to approve that.
Right.
They can approve, the staff can approve up to $10,000, they said, but anything after that would have to be approved by the board of supervisors. So we can apply for that, even if the board decides they don't want to do any of the maintenance, I can still work with the chamber and try to get that additional money to help finish the irrigation, because it's only,
Who's maintaining the Father Reginald Park?
the native sons.
And they don't wanna do that anymore? I
The
mean,
county
they're-
pays for the water though.
They, huh?
The
No,
county,
the native sons pay for the water through the county,
yeah.
but,
And they mow.
they mow it.
Why would we be taking it over?
They're having a declining participation in their group, so they're having more of a difficult time taking care of it. If we were gonna take over something, or take over the landscaping, then if we took over that, then that would help them, and it would help the image of the town, but, it'd be a minimal cost to the district.
It would help the image of the town?
Pardon me?
It would help the image of the town?
Well, that is one of the first things you see when you come into town.
I've lived here for 30 years, I've never sat at that park bench.
Well, you should, it's nice.
I actually went there about 10 times.
I've never
There's a
used it.
bunch.
That's great, I just never used it.
I've been here for 12 years, I go sit down every once in a while.
I'll look for you next time.
I'll wave.
Me too.
Is there any other board comments, questions?
I just personally think that with our lighting department and solid waste departments are generally in good shape. And we really should look forward to helping improve the image of our community, making it better, working with all the other stakeholders. And we are in a semi-arid climate, and by fixing the irrigation downtown, we're just gonna be helping the overall big picture.
I agree. I think that beautification is important as a community. I also agree that not letting water run into the sewer is probably a good idea, given that we want to be responsible with our own water use as a provider. I'm not really opposed to, working on this. I think the initial outlay is significant, but if we had some assistance from the county and or the water conservation people, that might be make it a little more palatable for us as a board.
Yeah, I'd definitely like more information as far as what the county's willing to kick in for the irrigation system.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, when we had the meeting with water conservation, however long ago that was,
A week, 2.
that was only a week ago?
I know. Oh.
Jeez Louise. Basically, like I said, they can improve up to $10,000. The project of replacing that definitely falls within their scope. I discussed the amount that was initially proposed to fix the entire thing, and they didn't seem to have a problem with that. The only thing they said is it'd have to go and be approved by the board of supervisors.
Okay.
So,
Well, would we do that first?
it depends on what you guys wanna do. I'm gonna go down that road anyway,
Right.
because we need to get this fixed, and I'm helping the chamber try to get this
That's fine.
fixed.
I think that's a
So,
good thing.
we're gonna go down that road one way or another. The difference is gonna be, when we get that money, is that money going to the chamber, and then we help the chamber minister the program, get it done, fixed, and over with? Or is it gonna come to us, and we're gonna use that as part of starting the district's responsibility of maintaining the system?
Yeah, because between the irrigation and the planting, you're looking at 45,000.
Potentially.
And then once we bite this off, then we own it. So now we're gonna be trimming the trees.
Then we'll have to trim the trees.
Well, they need to be trimmed because they put a tree in front of every street light, so the lights don't light up the street, they light up the inside of the tree.
Well, initially, there's gonna be a little bit more maintenance, probably, but in the long term, if there's more regular scheduled maintenance, and maybe by a professional landscaper, maybe that'll be cheaper, then hopefully it'll be a constant, in a constant condition.
And the $1,000 for legal easement, is that?
That's just a guess that we might have to file something with the county saying that we're taking it over. I don't know that that's necessary, and maybe more, it may not be at all.
What's the status of all the lighting projects around town that we want to get put in? And how much of that money of our budget would go to putting those lights in?
So the streetlights that wanted to be, or the initial 20 streetlights in the alleys and intersections, unfortunately, still waiting for PG&E to put them up. They approved them, they approved the application, they just haven't put them up. And working with PG&E to get this 24 streetlights on Mission Street converted to LED by PG&E. They are our streetlights, but PG&E still has a program to convert to LED. So trying to get PG&E to pay for that.
What about the park and ride?
The park and ride is still under SlowCog, and SlowCog still doesn't want to put lights.
So how much
So,
money?
but we could go through them and get that done.
We would have to get a permit from Caltrans.
Right, right.
How much money are we looking at for these 24 lights?
Initially, I had budgeted $24,000 between the parts and the labor to put them in.
That's the initial installation
If
cost.
we were to pay out of pocket right now, my estimation would be $24,000. I
And
think
then
the parts
do
are
you have a
actually coming
ballpark on
down.
how much additional that would be in electricity costs?
It would actually be less.
Right, because they're LEDs.
They're LEDs, so it'd be probably 2/3 of the cost.
What about the installation of all the locations that have been identified?
The installation
wish
is free.
list.
So,
Unless we have to put in a pole,
but those are all locations that have a pole and have power.
only because we didn't
We've
look at
investigated
the rest
Right.
of them. So we should complete that.
So the 20 that are
Analysis
going in
first,
right
you know.
now are all places that have poles with power. And
Right.
PG&E's accepted putting lights on those poles.
So,
There is, I think, 10 more locations that are all locations that do not have poles and do not have power. Some of those locations are in locations where it have to be undergrounded to a steel pole. Those
That's not
would have
true.
to be probably done over a couple fiscal years. Those are probably gonna, the ones that go underground to a pole are probably $15,000-$20,000 a piece. So,
so you're talking 10 of those? Worst case scenario, 200,000?
worst case.
Anything else?
Nope.
Public comment? Vern?
First, I guess I'd like to thank Kelly for the work he's done on this, because I think he's done a good job of pursuing what you ask him to do. And I also want to point out that on your cash report, the street lighting department is ending with $480,000. So it's not like they don't have money. And from the costs you were just discussing, even if they spent all of that, they would still have money. My comment about the county goes back to Mike Ellison, and John, you should remember this, because I think you were on the board when it came back to discussion again about who was paying for that water. Mike may remember that.
I was in the room, but I wasn't on the board when Mike Ellison was there.
Well, Mike had agreed initially when they got the grant, the county got the grant to install that. He agreed as just the manager for the district without the board's approval. He agreed and he had signed an agreement with the county to take care of that system. And on that basis, because they had to have someone agree to that according to the county before they would proceed. So Mike did that, and then tried to tell them it was just temporary. The board had to make a decision one way or another on what they were going to do. And at that point, the board, and Mike was gone by then.
Right.
But the board decided to not make, well, to pay for the water. In other words, to absorb the
Well,
cost of the water.
we were also paying an unlicensed, unbonded individual to do maintenance out there. And the
Initially,
CSD was paying for that.
they were initially, but at that point of division, the board decided to continue, to not charge for the water and just absorb that difference. And then they wanted somebody else to take care of the maintenance. They didn't wanna have to do that, and kind of left it up to the.
Well, it's because it was unlawful for them to be doing what they were doing.
Yeah, well.
They stopped out of necessity.
Yes, and so Mike and I kind of together agreed that we would recruit community people to help with the maintenance. Nobody knew, I think, at that time, the water system that they had put in was so corrupt. And so that's where that started, and then the chamber formed, and the chamber took over the responsibility for that. And the same kind of approach when they did the monuments, they had to have a group, and this is the county, they had to have a group that would agree to maintain it, and I believe the chamber made that agreement that with the county, that they would maintain that area around there. So, to me, this is again the county's fault initially was what happened, but, that just gives you a little background on where that's been and why the CSD is still kind of involved in the fact that there is money there. And I don't have a problem with them doing that, the CSD doing it, Kelly's plan. The problem I do see though is that you can't pick 11th, is it 11th, 14th?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't pick a block of town, that you're going to do on one side of the street as Mission Street without checking the legalities of what's gonna come up. You have to figure out how to put, and Kelly can probably do this, that's the only section we're doing. You have that blank space between, 11th all the way to Father Reginald Park. They're not gonna put sidewalks in front of Father Reginald because they don't wanna dig there, archaeologically. So what if the county extends that sidewalk, which I think I saw on one of their agendas that they had something about improving that sidewalk. What if they put in landscaping stuff?
What about the other side of the street?
Yeah, and what about when they build over here? So all I'm saying is that would have to be a part of the whole thing, that it's only applies to this and further development will have to provide their own. I don't know, something.
You'll have this, wouldn't we have the same problem we have now?
With future development?
Yeah, because the county, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the
No.
county doesn't listen when you tell them what should be done here. They just go ahead and they come up with a design plan, just like they did, and they put all this in, and now you put it on our lap to deal with. And they'll do the same thing on the other side of the street.
Well, at the Mission, is it the Mission Deli? They made them do the landscaping. On the other side of the street, you notice there is none.
Right.
So they're very selective in that regard, but the point is that the county initially made an agreement with the CSD